Welcome to Inside NLCS Singapore, a series of conversations with the people that shape our school. Hopefully, these conversations will give you a window into the expertise, the passion, and the values that drive our school and make it such a special place for our children to learn in. So our first guest in this series is Sophie Davis, a new Vice Principal this year. She's responsible for safeguarding and inclusion and has made a huge and immediate impact on our school. I want to talk to Sophie today not so much about what she does, but Sophie, about why you do it. So we'll be delving into the personal aspects of your role. So let's just start with the fact that safeguarding and inclusion are such core responsibilities, but they're also deeply personal, aren't they? So let's take safeguarding to start with.
Yeah.
Just talk about what it means to you at a personal level.
Absolutely. So when, any practitioner or someone coming into a school hears that word safeguarding, that word safe stands out. And of course, who as a teacher, a parent, someone in a family associated with a child doesn't want them to always feel safe? It's almost like the most integral part of relationships that we build in school, either as professionals or family units. So I think it's one of those jobs that genuinely you live and breathe. You have the child's safety at heart. You have their best interests at the heart of what you're doing. And with that, it does come with that emotional impact on you as well, that you are genuinely just trying to get the absolute best for these students. Be it that they're going to be going off on a trip of something exciting, somewhere that you're giving them a new experience. You want them to be playing beautifully in your setting. You want them to have the best care possible for when things go wrong, like our health centre and things like that. But it's just understanding that really safety is such a meaningful word, and having that responsibility. It's not about writing policies. It's not about putting that piece in. It's about making a child genuinely feel like an individual, and you know them, you understand them.
So I think you've done a really good job there of explaining why safeguarding has to be important for all of us in the community. But you are so passionate about it.
Yeah.
All of your colleagues here, all of the parents and the students that you meet see something really deep in you regarding your passion, your commitment to safeguarding. Where did that come from?
Genuinely, I think I chose to start my career in probably some areas that have quite high levels of deprivation. So my first school was in central Southampton. I then moved to an area called Andover in the UK. And I was working in classes where, essentially I was an on-the-ground social worker alongside being a teacher, have wonderful students, incredible young people, incredible families, but very vulnerable people. And with that, seeing each individual journey of how the right support can make a difference is just phenomenal. It's a different layer of teaching. And when I was at a point in my leadership career where we were looking at, I was a lead practitioner for English and assessment, I was doing all this stuff around education, but the piece that got me up in the morning, the piece that I found brilliant and that I just saw such a difference in my young people was that more pastoral, safeguarding, inclusive route. And then some of the more kind of, I suppose, standout stories, when someone says to me, name 5 kids you've made a difference to, it's the ones that we got the safeguarding right. When something truly had gone, in a pathway that was difficult for a family, or that there was a circumstance that we needed to act, those are the kids that stand out to me. And I think that's it, when you say like what gets you out of bed in the morning, that type of thing, it's like knowing that there are kids genuinely who've grown up now, students, young people who are, teenagers, adults, maybe even having families themselves, and I've made such a difference to the way they grew up or the way that they were supported in that journey that they're flourishing.
Okay. You mentioned inclusion, so let's go on to that second part of your remit. And many people in schools, don't they? They think inclusion is about the individual needs, support that we offer to our students, the special educational needs support. But for us, it's also about the culture that we're creating in the school. So talk to us about inclusion under your guidance and what it means to us at NLCS Singapore.
Yeah, and I think in my guidance, I am sitting as the VP. I sit above this, so I've got to think big picture. I am, when it comes to inclusion, a blue sky thinker. I think about how does each individual voice, be it we're talking about, I say, like the more traditional sense of maybe someone with SEND individual needs or mental health support or something like that, to our internationalism, to our diverse culture of backgrounds and languages we have in the school, to the celebrations that we can have together to make sure everyone feels like they are, they are unique, but also they are included. A big part of this year, there's a phrase that has been sort of taught to me, and it's something that really, I think, highlights what I'm trying to achieve in that blue sky picture, which is this bridges, not barriers. Whether it's that someone feels that they have a challenge with their learning, or whether there's some kind of thing where their culture maybe is a minority group in certain things, we want there to be a bridge for them. We want them to feel that they can connect with somebody, that they can feel valued, that they can feel that yes, that uniqueness is special, but I can connect with somebody else on it. Someone's going to listen to me. And one of the big pieces that I've been working with staff and our steering groups, which are some very passionate students, staff and families in the school, is this idea of allyship. And it's the idea that there are very different forms of it, and we can be quite unique in our journey of allyship. So when people hear ally or allyship, we say, we're standing together, we're doing this sort of thing. But actually, when you break that down, there are so many different forms of allyship. You could be a scholar, someone who likes to research things and understand where things come from. You could be an upstander. Some of our groups like the Lean In for Girls movement, who stand up in an assembly and come together and invite speakers in to talk about gender inequality or opportunities for females. You can be somebody who is intersectional ally, where you're understanding that everyone's version of, for example, poverty is different. Everyone's version of being wealthy is different, and trying to understand that. And I think that is a very powerful tool. And when we sit in this very academic setting where we are striving for the best of our students, them unpicking allyship on that kind of level is really powerful.
That's great, thank you. Let's focus on you a little bit more, because the role that you have, it's inevitable, isn't it? You're dealing with support, you're supporting students and families. Mm-hmm. And so there's an inevitability that you're working with students and families who are having difficulties. Mm-hmm. Now that must place an emotional strain on you. There's an emotional weight attached to your role. Mm-hmm. Where do you get the strength from to go through that and help and support and continually feel positive and smile? Where does that strength come from?
Strength comes from the success that you can see. I mean, it's an entirely different feeling from being a teacher and seeing student A get from this grade to this grade. It's an entirely different feeling from someone passing their GCSEs or something like that. It's a feeling of genuine change. You're changing the pathway for a student. You're helping them pave the road in the right direction, and it's beyond anything. And yes, people can say, gosh, you're dealing with issues, at social work level, if we're talking from a UK perspective, or in Singapore, kind of child protection services stuff, you are dealing with some very complex things. And then sort of continue with IN, we're talking about mental health, we're talking about children with diagnoses that they may be struggling with themselves, or a family needs support to deal with. But actually, you are genuinely writing the road for somebody's future. You are potentially paving a pathway into further education that maybe they struggled with the belief that they'd be successful in, a career path that maybe they never thought was possible, a kind of supportive in a family, giving a family strategies to help with a level of neurodiversity that they just didn't know how to communicate together. You are being a change maker, and that is incredible. And so yes, there are days when I would knock on your door, and I know I always say it to you, I'll tell you if I'm having a day that I need an extra coffee or a packet of crisps. In my eyes, you know that I'm not a chocolate fan. It's all about packet of crisps. But it's about that kind of self-care in terms of reframe the situation. Look at what you have done that's successful for these students. Look at what you have done to make someone's day, someone's term, someone's year, or a family's holiday experience even better because of the support you've put in. And it is really personal. You get to know families in a very different way in my role. You're no longer the teacher sat across the desk in a PTC and doing that. You are helping somebody. You're an aid. You're in some situations you're a survival help person.
I mentioned right at the start the impact that you've had on our school since you came here, and we all are aware of that huge impact. But we've had two external opinions recently. We've had our COBIS accreditation visit, we've had our NLCS inspection. Both of them have highlighted the fantastic work that you've done since you arrived. COBIS described you as transformative. What do you think has been the key to that success, the key to that impact in really such a short space of time?
So I always class as you know, I used to be a principal as well, so I know that kind of big picture thinking and where you've got to take things. And I always look at it in two different pockets of where do we need to be reactive, where do we need to kind of solve quick thinking problems, but how can we be preventative? And I think it's the care and attention that we have put in this year to being preventative, to thinking about early indication of IN, or for example with our safeguarding needs, any indication of any kind of welfare concerns, understanding that those jigsaw puzzle pieces, there's a piece of training I delivered at the beginning of the year and I got some lovely feedback from it, and it's this idea that each piece of a puzzle truly matters. And I think it is getting staff members to understand that it doesn't matter what your role is, you truly can make the same kind of difference that I do in terms of safeguarding. Because if you're the person that puts the piece in the puzzle that helps us understand what truly the challenge was in the first place, you are the one, you're the keystone to everything working. Now, I think that idea of preventative work as well is looking at, so not just early indicators, but early help. We have incredible pastoral practitioners in this school, and although my job does sit separate from the pastoral team, it also sits in collaboration with them. Yes, we're noticing this. It's in a safeguarding, concern category, or it's something that we think might be heading in that direction. What can we do first? Who can we talk to? Who can we get in here? How can we help this to maybe stay within our pastoral team with some monitoring and move forward from it? So I think it is that journey of, yes, sometimes we do need to react fast. You know, that there's always that day, that unpredictable moment that you just never realise what would have come through on a phone call or through your door that morning. But how do we think about the long game, that every situation, the teacher, the tutor, that everyone involved understands that they are an important piece in all of it?
Sure. We've used the word culture a few times, in the safeguarding context, in the inclusion context. If we think about the next stages of our school development within your remit, what are the next issues that you think we need to address, or the improvements that we need to look towards in terms of the school culture?
Yeah, I think there's always this piece around, there's an ever-changing nature of IN. We're learning stuff all the time. We're learning new skills for supporting young people with neurodiversity or special educational needs. We're learning new things about how we can embrace culture, how we can celebrate as a community. And I think it's always making sure we're at the forefront of that, and also our teachers are at the forefront of that. We have incredible IN specialists in the school, and also specialists we can reach out to help families. But it's that idea of, we've got a hungry staff to be the best teachers they absolutely can be. So let's look at what others, we call it sort of quality first teaching. You're the forefront, you're the person who potentially is the first person to notice that there could be a sign of dyslexia. You're the first person to notice that somebody may be feeling culturally sort of misplaced in their classroom. How can we make sure that that quality first teaching has all the skills of everything that we see as the forefront of education?
Okay. Now the fun part to end. We borrowed an idea from a famous podcast.
Okay.
That we're going to ask everyone that we speak to leave a question for the next person that we have a conversation with. Now, because you're first,
I get away with it.
You don't get away with it.
No.
Because I decided to ask Mr. Earl, our senior vice principal, and you're probably expecting what I'm expecting. And here's his question for you.
Okay.
If the person you were a decade ago could travel forward in time and meet you today, which parts of your personal and professional self do you think you would recognise the most and the least? It's a typical Mr. Earl question.
Yeah, so 10 years ago, where was I? Okay. I think the piece that people would recognise, or I would recognise in myself, would be my absolute, it's almost like a personal rule of that kindness is the most important thing. Be kind. There is nothing more important in life. And every time I deal with a situation, even doesn't matter how challenging it is how does that lens go first? How do I make sure that whether it's we're looking at complicated behaviour discussions or anything like that, my first interaction with a parent who's hearing for the first time that their student may need some additional support, how can we put kindness into that? And I think that's always been my brand. That's been who I am. Yeah. The piece that person wouldn't recognise is probably the confidence I have to talk about how well I do things. I think I was definitely a naysayer or a hide from compliments kind of person. Happy to do my job, do the best I can, but I don't want to be ever put out on a limb for it. And actually now I've learned to embrace that. When somebody says you're doing a great job, take that all on board.
And do you think if Sophie 10 years ago would have seen you as a vice principal in a 1,400 place international school in Singapore, would that have been a surprise?
Yes, for sure. For sure. I had quite I love my trajectory when I look at it. I think I used to, again, like when I first got my headship in the UK, or I first got my deputy headship, I used to be almost shy about saying to people, oh, when I'm this many years into teaching and things. Now I like to sit here and say I'm incredibly proud of that trajectory. But 10 years ago, I would have probably gone, say what? Yeah.
Okay. Sophie, thank you for everything that you do for us.
Amazing.
And thank you for the conversation.
Thank you.